And welcome to another episode of The Bride's Room. I'm your host, Authentic Aisha, and if you're planning your big day, if you're helping somebody else plan their big day, this is the podcast you need. This is the podcast where we celebrate all things love. This is the podcast where we support you through your wedding planning journey, or if you don't really know what wedding planning is going to be like, you got a little boyfriend or girlfriend, you're trying to see what everyone else is saying. This is where you get the inside scoop. So welcome if you're new. Glad to have you joining part of the family. Before we move any further, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you are a returner, thank you so much for coming back. I owe you so much love. And so I'm actually having a great week this week. This week has been off to a really, really good start. And I just feel like I am going into my I'm already in my 30s, but like maturing in my 30s. And something that I've really started to realize is that you just can't let life happen to you. I feel like you really have to, and I know sounds so cliche, but you really have to take life by the balls and just say no, not over here. I saw someone on TikTok saying that, not over here. And for real, ever since this week, I said, I'm literally taking control and not letting life happen to me. And to be fair, usually I'm like that anyway. And yeah, it's been a great week. And I hope you guys have been having a great week too. I'm giving you guys the solo episodes back to back just because I feel like they have been received so well from you guys. And yeah, why not? Why not do another solo episode back to back? Don't worry, the girls are coming at some point. I either need to get them here in this studio or find my ass back in London again. But at some point, we're gonna get there. But anyway. So as you do, I love a bit of community. I love a bit of social media, engaging with you guys online. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I took to my story yesterday and I wanted to talk about terms and conditions. And I'll tell you why before we get into what everybody else said. If you don't know, I actually have a community that I'm building offline where, I have a bunch of brides that a lot of them are actually married now. But at the time I was really, it was just a little group where me and the girls would just chit chat about everything wedding planning. Anyway, I say that to say that at some point during the at some point when exchanging conversations, actually no, it wasn't in the community. I was just talking to another bride outside of the community, but she had shown me one of the terms and conditions from one of the vendors that she had inquired with, and she was taken back. And I thought, I definitely remember planning my wedding and feeling like, what the hell? Literally WTH. What are we doing here? For the most simple service, sometimes the contracts can be so crazy. And I get it as well from a vendor perspective, and just for context as well, if you're getting to know me, or if you didn't know already, or you joined halfway through the podcast, I actually used to be a makeup artist, and at some point as well, I actually got to the point where I was good enough to be booked for people's weddings. So I have done bridal bookings, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you to the people that actually trusted me all those years ago to do your makeup on your big day. I really am very thankful for that. But I say that to say that I know what it's like to be a service provider, and I know what it's like to be frustrated and have really traumatic experiences, but I don't think it's fair to take it out on everybody else. And maybe I was just very fortunate in my time. Maybe I hadn't done it long enough to experience crazy people, you know, because a lot of time vendors are like, oh, but Aisha, you don't know how crazy some of the people out here. I do know that there's crazy people walking amongst us. I'm very aware. But I just feel like sometimes people take the mick with their T's and C's and how they approach the next set of clients or prospective clients, shall I say, because obviously not every exchange always ends up being. One of the brides I spoke with recently engaged with a particular service provider. I'm not going to say exactly who or what it was, but it was for a wedding. And in their terms and conditions, one of the clauses was labeled false information. So one section was labeled false information about occasion. And it reads, please be sure you are booking for the right occasion and be honest. If wrong or false information is given about what occasion the service is for, your deposit stands as your confirmation/agreement that you shall pay the price difference of the true occasion price. This applies whether discovered before, during, or after your booking. This may be escalated legally. I found this particular clause very, very interesting because it's one thing finding out at the booking or before the booking. It's another thing potentially trying to take legal action after the booking. And I don't want to jump into the whole, you know, bridal makeup versus wedding makeup. Got a whole episode of Edith dedicated to this. If you haven't watched it, please do. And I'll link it in the description box below. But what I really found interesting is that, what I really want to say is that I still do stand by, at the end of the day, just give the person ways that they ask for. If they ask for a basic service, then give them basic makeup. Even if it's their wedding day. I get the whole concept of, you know, oh, I should be paid this or paid that. But if they didn't stress you and they behaved like a birthday girl and they didn't do the most, I just don't know how I don't really understand that. And I'll be really, really honest. I don't understand that. Like, the way I see it is that if I was to go to McDonald's for a Happy Meal, then give me a Happy Meal. It's not about me being a 30-plus-year-old. Yeah, okay, so what? I want a Happy Meal. Just give me what I asked for. You shouldn't be like, oh, but we have Big Macs and chicken burgers and nuggets for adults. Okay, yeah, so, but what I want is a Happy Meal. That's all I can afford, you know? And I think it's about letting people cut their cloth according to their size, because the same person now that would stretch themselves to pay for that wedding service would then be shamed if they couldn't, or if they complained about the price. So they booked what they could afford and they're being shamed for it. I personally, I don't really get that. But it seems here that there's actually a potential case of this actually being escalated legally, which I think is a bit of a reach in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. But yeah, so let's get on to the actual story that I put out yesterday. So I said yesterday to everybody, let's talk about terms and conditions. I love engaging with everybody because you guys are always going to keep it real, keep it 100, right? This was my story. So I said, what's the weirdest or most unexpected term you've ever seen in a wedding vendor's contract? So let's see what the people were saying. So first one comes as no surprise. It shouldn't come as a surprise, to be honest. Food and transportation. Except the wedding is in the middle of nowhere. Sort yourself out. And I agree. We'll get onto the topic of food because it's quite interesting. The topic of food came up so many times. If you watched my earlier episodes when I was freshly out of wedding plan, actually, was I even fresh? But I was freshly into doing this. I still had a lot of emotions. I spoke about food a lot in the earlier days, and it never lands well with vendors. But I do think it's something that we should always still talk about, because, to be honest, I don't think it should even be a discussion. If I'm being really, really honest, I don't think it should be a discussion. But I think sometimes the entitlement and the behavior of certain vendors ruin it for everybody else. The vendor had to have a double bed. I'm going to be in the middle a bit with this one, because I think I understand what the vendor's requesting. Because, to be honest, if you were to go to a hotel and there wasn't a double bed, that is a bit weird. If there is a single bed, chances are that the room is probably really, really, really shitty anyway. So I'm in the middle bed, but I just don't think that's something that you need to include in your clauses, in your contract. I just think, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm in the middle with that one. Next one, lunch to be provided. So this particular vendor requested for lunch to be provided in the contract. It's one thing having a verbal conversation about it, but it's another thing including it in your contract. Like, guys, come on. In my opinion, I'm against this clause. I'm not gonna lie, because I feel like we are already paying a premium. Your clients are already paying a premium. A content creator on a normal day might be, let's say, £100. For a wedding, I'm already spending £500. What exactly, for me, I would assume that food would already be included in that inflated cost. Already, for me, pricing is talk about this every episode, but it should already be included in the cost, and that's just where I'm gonna stand on that forever. So for me, I'm against that one. No, boo. Next one, buyout clause for my privacy. So this particular vendor is saying that if you choose to go with me, then I'm allowed to essentially post however I want, post your wedding however I want. And I find that quite crazy and entitled, because it's my wedding. I feel like there is I get that, and I said this with Bibi as well. I was saying that with vendors, there's a lot of focus on the bride and the content, because obviously I get that if this content goes viral, it's going to make or break your next booking. I get that, but having to get your couples to buy out their privacy is crazy to me. I just I don't like that.
You suck.
Next one, some of the vendors said that they had to be in a minimum 4-star with continental breakfast also. Wow. And so I was talking about this online, and some people said that they're not necessarily mad at this one. I just feel like with the whole 4-star thing, it just depends on where you are. And I think personally that the wording should go from, rather than focusing on the stars of the hotel or accommodation, I think personally that it should focus on facilities. So minimum double bed, sink, somewhere to brush your teeth. I don't know, because 4-star in some places, it's like 5-star in another place. I'll use myself an example. I've used this before. I got married in Mykonos. Everywhere in Mykonos is really, really nice. So 2-star, 3-star Mykonos is still really, really cool and really, really beautiful. And it's a shame that sometimes you're forced to spend more than you need to as a couple. I think when you're more like in the UK, France side of Europe, yeah, I get it. 4-star probably, because hotels can be a bit cheeky when it comes to that. But for the most part, I think most couples get married in really nice places. So I don't think it has to be minimum 4-star. I think it depends on the location. But I guess, yeah, there's no other way to word it. So sadly, the bride in me is against this, but the business-minded person in me is kind of for it. So I will say, yeah, cool. Initially, though, when I did see this in people's contracts, I was really, really pissed off, because I was like, you're taking the piss out of me. You're actually trying to go on holiday. But now, being on the other side and engaging with so many people, I understand how much people can really push their vendors to the limit when it comes to these things, or just try and be really, really cheeky when it comes to saving costs. But once again, the bride in me is also thinking, but if I've paid you all of this money, surely you should be able to afford this should cover accommodation. Yeah. And the worst part as well is that the hotel is an add-on to the price of whatever it is that you're spending, which I just find crazy, but different conversation for a different day. Okay. So this person reads, if I tell you, my vendor wanted to have a 50% deposit, fine. But then she wrote inside her contract, in case she cannot turn up last minute, she would still take the money and book someone else as her replacement. Yeah, it's a no for me. It's an absolute no for me. Sorry, in fact, it's a hell no to me. For me, this is one of my biggest pet peeves, because if I've booked Lady Gaga's makeup service, and by the way, it's a makeup company, so Lady Gaga makeup service, if you do exist, I'm not talking about you. This is very hypothetical. But if I've booked Lady Gaga makeup services, I'm expecting Lady Gaga to turn up on my wedding day. If for whatever reason Lady Gaga should not be able to turn up on my wedding, I want my money back, because that's not my fault, babe. I booked you for your skill, and I'm very much that kind of person as well. When looking for vendors, I very much looked at people's skill set. You know, and sometimes as well, you just want the person that you've dreamt of, the dream that they've sold, that you yourself have sold online, on Instagram, on TikTok, wherever. You have sold this dream that you can do this service, and then to say that if you can't make it, that you're still going to take the money. For me personally, I find that greedy, and I don't like that. But I do understand that. I don't know if it's a thing now still, but I do feel like around the time when I was getting married, I do know that that was very much massively a thing, where if a particular vendor couldn't turn up, they would send a replacement or someone from their team to do the work for them. It's an absolute hell no for me. So yeah, no. The next one, this vendor said, I needed to pay him £550 so he doesn't post my wedding on his socials or websites. I don't get why couples are being held to ransom with this whole posting. If they want privacy, then why not? Why do you think it's your right to post their wedding? They've paid for the service, they've paid for the pictures. Why then an additional fee? For me, I feel like that's blackmailing personally, but I could be wrong. I don't like that. I don't like that clause. That is a no for me. But maybe there's a legal thing there. But for me personally, I think that I would, if I was on the receiving end of this, I would feel like this vendor is trying to take advantage of me. Obviously, you never know which wedding is going to pop off and change the whole trajectory of your career and whatever. But it's not my problem. What? If I say no, like it's my wedding. What the hell? Next one, obligated to tag in all social media posts. Tagging, this whole tagging phenomenon is crazy to me. I didn't realize how important this whole tagging thing was and how petty people really get with tagging. But the fact that we're now at the stage where vendors are incorporating that into their contract, saying that you must tag me on all social media. What if I don't have social media? What if I don't have social media? What are you going to do then? What if I have no Instagram, no TikTok? What are you going to do? Are you just not going to take me on as a client? Because you know, we know how you guys stay if someone doesn't have social following anyway. So probably you wouldn't even take me on as a client. I don't know. But if I don't have if I don't have socials, then what? That doesn't make sense to me. So it's a no from me. Boo. So the food one came up so many times to the point that I actually had to put a poll out to ask, is this a norm? Have you guys seen this in the contract? Because I just felt like it kept on popping up too much. So the results came out and 63 people had said that they had seen it in a contract. That is a lot of people versus 19 people that said they had not seen it in a contract. That is a lot of people. And I don't understand why we are incorporating food into our contracts. I don't even get why. Anyway, yeah, wild. Sorry if I'm coming across a bit jumpy here. It's just because as I was sharing my story, so many people were responding to me. But to go back to the whole food thing as well, somebody actually wrote in and said, these times people come with extra content creators and that becomes an extra mouth to feed. And bro, I think that's the thing. I completely agree with this person. So when I first started the Bride's Room, I remember being a topic of discussion. And I remember actually, I remember saying that I don't necessarily agree with it, but culturally, yes, is it something that I would do? 100%. I would definitely do that, because if you come into my house or if you come into my space, I'm definitely going to look after you. Are you entitled to that reception and that warm care that I give you? No, absolutely not. Especially if I've already paid you a fee. And I remember somebody was actually really, really upset to the point that they went to my husband in real life, was like, why would your wife say that on the podcast? And I was like, what the hell? Like, some people are actually really, really crazy. And I think let's take a step back and take our emotions out of it, because it's not about, oh, I don't want to feed my makeup artist or I don't want to feed my DJ. I don't want to, what we're really saying is, I don't want to feed my service provider plus their team of 5 plus that person's team of 4 plus this person's team of, I don't know. It is a lot of mouths to feed, and sometimes more time as well. Some of these people even come with friends to just accompany them to the wedding, and it becomes extra mouths that, yes, maybe I did factor in my makeup artist, maybe I did factor in my DJ, maybe I did factor in my MC, but then what happens? They come with teams. Some of them, not all of them, but these people come with teams, and I think there's a fine line between hosting the people There's a fine line between hosting your vendors and people just absolutely taking a piss out of you, and that's what I think, to be honest. A person on the topic of food again. Sis, oh my God, this happened to me. So this person says, sis, oh my God, this happened to me. I had a wedding like this. The couple paid for 10 vendors and we had over 30 vendors asking for food, including the money changing guy. Now, another point that someone said is that, mind you, nobody books the money changing guy. They just turn up. And what a lot of people fail to realize is that, yes, there's food available across the board. The food is out, but the couple have worked tirelessly. You know, they've used their hard-earned cash to pay for head counts. We're not seeing it as, oh, there's still a bucket of rice. We're seeing it as there's still food for 80 people left, food for 50 people left, and each person we've paid for. And I think it's very frustrating to know how hard I personally worked to raise money for my own wedding, and entitled to my wedding. I don't really like that. I do feel like couples should continue to call it out. I think people should be really conscious when you are seen eating. Everyone's going to know now that couples do pay for vendors to eat as well. Someone else said that I did 120 food packs for my vendors. So this person was so considerate that she considered the vendors plus their teams, and it all added up to 120 extra people on top of their wedding guests. And you know what I'm going to say? I do feel like some of you couples are so lovely, but I do think you kind of ruin it for everybody by not pushing back a little bit, because for me, this is taking the piss. 120 people is some people's whole wedding. What do you mean you are paying for 120 extra mouths to feed and none of them are your wedding guests? Something is wrong there, in my opinion. Another something is wrong there. Yeah, it's an absolute no for me. No. That's all I'm going to say. Absolutely insane. MUA is requesting 4-star only accommodation if your wedding is out of London. Behave yourself. That's what this person says. Once again, the 4-star thing came up. So I asked my audience, is this a norm? And the results came in. 25 people versus 19 people. So 25 people had said yes, 19 people had said no. So it does seem like it's something that MUAs do ask regularly. Within the UK, do I agree with it? I'm going to say no. I think we could go down to 3-star. I think providing a comfortable bed, clean, and a bit of food, I think is fine. When we are trying to make sure it's luxury, I don't know, just take some of the money that I've given you and top up whatever it is that. Last but not least, this one said, my MUA asked me to book in the same hotel as me. Mind you, she lives a 30-minute drive away. I just aired the message. See, that's the thing. I don't think that that's even a term and condition, first of all. I think sometimes people just want the experience. I don't know. What is that? I don't know. Is it just a culture that's normalized amongst vendors? And I want you guys to be really honest with yourselves and me. Is it just a culture that's normalized and no one's ever questioned these things, and because people have got away with it for years, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it? Or what is it? Because I don't get how you can know that, okay, you live 30 minutes away from the venue but still request to have a hotel stay. I get it, traffic in the morning, early hours, but just manage your time better. Time management, no? That one is also a no from me. So yeah. So those are the quirky, weird, strange T's and C's that people have shared with me in the last few days. Let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. I'm sure you guys have more T's and C's that you've listened to, I'm sure you guys have, why am I stuttering so much today? Oh my God. I'm sure you guys have had more T's and C's that have left you a bit confused and having a bit of a question mark around the contract on whether you even want to use a vendor. But comment down below, let me know what else have you guys seen if I haven't mentioned them in this episode. There's always something going on in the world of weddings. If it's not friendship, if it's not, merging the two families together, if it's not your bridesmaids being a bit odd, funny, haters, if it's not the groom being stingy, there is always something. And this is a topic that I feel like hasn't been covered so far since I've started this podcast, but I think it would be such a really good one. This dilemma reads, I'm frustrated but not surprised with the racism that I have dealt with when planning my wedding. Ooh. This is a topic that we have never covered in the bride's room. So I don't know if I need to give a trigger warning, but just in case, if racism is something that does trigger you, then, you know, trigger warning, heads up. But yeah, let's jump into the dilemma and see what this person is saying. I'm frustrated but not surprised with the racism that I have dealt with when planning my wedding. I think everyone needs to be aware of this. I'm just so frustrated with what I have been running up against when planning my wedding. This started from the jump. When we were deciding what part of the country we're going to get married, we were looking at Napa Valley, north coast of CA. So I'm assuming CA is California. None of the higher end makeup artists or hairstylists can do black hair. Many cannot do makeup for people with darker skin tones, and I would look at Instagrams of highly recommended MUAs and there are maybe only one black bride featured. When I reached out to potential MUA businesses, I would either get, we don't do that here, or not even get a response. If I wanted my hair done, I would have to fly in someone. This was a large contributing factor for us not getting married in that area. What's wild is that we are doing our wedding in DC now, and I'm still having the same problem. A lot of the black artists that I did see were not quite my style, or they didn't have very good reviews. Or I would have to come into the salon, which anyone with natural hair knows walking around in the humidity is a gamble. Any of the more high-end full-service artists had the same issue. I had a business referred me to a curly stylist who did not do all curls. It was the same with photographers. When the photographer's Instagram only had one black couple on it and posted on MLK Day with a quote. Also, the lighting they did for them was terrible. My money spends just as good as anyone. Don't even get me started on how the conversation shifts when my white fiance is on a virtual meeting and then later I join. I'm just wondering if anyone else has had these experiences when planning a wedding. Wow. So I find this one so interesting. But you know what? First things first, we have to acknowledge that this bride is definitely based in America. So this is quite interesting. It's quite interesting because in the UK, it's almost like we are desensitized to this because we have the exact same problem. But yeah, we have the exact same problem, to be honest. But I guess, do you know what it is? I think the UK and Europe is a lot smaller. So I think flying people here, there, and everywhere, it is inconvenient, yes, but I don't think it's the end of the world compared to flying someone from state to state if you want a good hairstylist. And I can imagine that if we experience what we experience as black brides and black couples in the UK, then I can only imagine, well, this dilemma is the result of that, to be honest. It's a tough one. Because am I expecting white hairstylists to know how to do black hair for weddings when we're not even at the stage where white hairstylists just do regular hair for black people on a day-to-day basis, let alone weddings? I think it's a reach to kind of expect that. And even photography. And for me, I had a destination wedding in Greece. And that was the biggest reason why I flew out a lot of my vendors, because I knew that I wasn't going to get that exact same experience. I knew, especially when it came to things like photography, that was big for me. And it was really important for me to have a photographer that could bring up my melanin and make my skin pop and make, you know, just make the pictures just look very juicy and not gray. And I can imagine, specifically when it comes to that photographer that she was referring to, I can imagine the pictures being ashy AF. I can imagine. But is there an expectation? Is it a necessity for all vendors to be able to do services for all types of couples? For me, I think it's a no. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's a nice to have, but I like to live in the real world. And I think in the real world where we're not even able as black people to walk into a salon, I don't know why there would be an expectation to just be able to get someone to do your wedding hair. Because I do acknowledge that being able to even do wedding hairstylist is a whole different skill set. So being able to straighten hair is one thing. Being able to do a French roll is a whole different game. And I think having that, but then also having someone that can do that with black hair is next level. So I would say it's good that this person has highlighted this dilemma, because I think if you are someone that does want to get married one day, I think it's something that you massively need to consider. Not all vendors can do things for people that look like me. And if you are watching this and you look like me, people that look like you, do I expect it to be, do I expect, like I said, I think it's a nice to have, but in reality, I think there are so many steps we need to get to before then. So I would say, if you're actively planning your wedding, have a budget aside, because you might need to fly people, you might need to fly some of your vendors out. But what I will say as well, people are getting better, or venues and locations are getting better with the photography side of things. I think so. I spoke about Temi Ajibade last episode, and I loved her photographer, Jose Villa, I believe that's his name. And let me make sure I get his name right. Yeah, Jose Villa. I'm not too sure which one, whichever one, but he captured those pictures really, really well. So I do think we are getting there as a society and as time goes on, but I think there's still a long way to go before every vendor can do a service for every type of client. I just don't think we're there yet. So that's the reality of the situation, in my opinion. Okay, next dilemma. This one reads, my in-laws are accusing us of destroying the family. My fiance and I are planning a small wedding. He would have happily eloped, but we compromised on a small intimate wedding. For this reason, we decided not to have children at our wedding. There's not a huge amount of kids in our family and friend groups, so we didn't think this would be a big issue. It allows us to keep the costs down with the need for separate entertainment for a handful of kids. But equally, I have been at a few weddings where children have destroyed the guest books and other items. Not having kids means I don't need to worry about anything getting damaged. I know kids don't mean to do these things, they are just being kids. However, my fiance's family have taken great offense to this. We thought it had all blown over until recently. My fiance's dad had berated him when they were on a away trip, accused us of destroying the family, causing people to wail in tears to them at kids not being included, telling him recently past relatives would have been disgusted at our choices, that weddings are all about family and we are hurting ours. I'm honestly so angry and upset. I didn't expect this type of behavior from his family. I feel terrible for my fiance. I really don't want to back down from our decision and give in to horrible behavior, but I also want to think about the damage this is doing to my fiance's relationship with his family. Sorry for the long post. If you read this far, any advice would be much appreciated. I feel like this should be such a happy day, but right now it just makes me feel so miserable. Wow. Okay. So, firstly, for some reason, I keep seeing the topic of children attending weddings popping up a lot more online. And I find it quite interesting because I think we're now in a society where, I don't even know if this is, okay, let me stick to the topic of weddings. I'm not go into society and what everybody else is doing. But I do feel like the topic of children being at weddings, at first it was kind of like, haha, nah, I don't want kids at my wedding because, you know, kids do kids things. But I would question, is this coming from a place of genuinely wanting to keep it intimate, or is it coming from a place of not liking children? And I don't know if I might be reaching. For me, I feel like the whole topic of kids I think people are kind of going overboard with it. If I was in your position, block out the noise. You need to think about the life you are about to start with this man. And for me, family is a massive thing. Family is really, really big. And even more so when bringing two families together. Like for me, our world needs to be one. And I would hate to start off my marriage, because I think people always think about what the wedding day looks like, how it feels. It's just one day out of forever with you and your boo thing. And you need to think about, can I compromise on this thing? I get the pride, the ego, not wanting to back down because it's your choice, it's your wedding. I get all of that. But first of all, who are these children? Are these children of his siblings? So like, are they actually his direct nieces or nephews? Are they one family member away? Like, how close within that intimate family, how close are these kids to the people that you're inviting to the wedding? Because I think that makes a massive difference. If they are really, really close to those being invited, I think you guys are wrong. And I say this as a mother personally. I think it's wrong to exclude children. I think the onus is on the parents to manage their children. And if you feel like you strongly just don't trust the children, then I think there's so many ways to go about it. I think first things first, if your father-in-law and your mother-in-law are that upset about it, then have a frank conversation with your husband. If they're that, for me, pay for it then. If you're that upset about it, or you're that worried about that area of the wedding, then there needs to be some money attached to this, because at the end of the day, it's a financial decision. And if you're just gonna make noise about things, but you're not going to fork up the peas, then what are we talking about here, bro? But I do bear in mind that this is your father-in-law, and this is, at the end of the day, that is your husband's family. And you're also going to have children one day as well. You want to remember that. It's a hard one, but for me, what would I do if I was in that position? I would just let the kids come, but I would definitely put the bill on my in-laws or whoever's making the complaint. So whether it's the parents collectively, so whether it's my parents and his parents making noise, I would definitely bill them. And I definitely did stuff like that as well during my wedding. Oh my God, if you complained about something, oh my God, absolutely, please do pay for it. And if not, then obviously I wouldn't tell our elder to shut up, but silence, forever hold your peace. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's really, really important to consider who those children are and where they stand in the family, because that could really actually affect the family in the long term. And I know people always say, yeah, well, it's our relationship. You are not just marrying the man, you are marrying the whole family, and you don't want them to hate you just because of the one decision that you made. I think some people are okay with being hated by their in-laws. Me personally, it's not something that I would ever encourage anybody to do. But I think let the kids come, put the bill on the in-laws, especially father-in-law, if he feels like the family's being destroyed. And get some entertainers, get a little segment for the kids, get some food, and call it a day. I think there's a way where everybody can have their way. People also forget that weddings are a family function. I know we like to be in denial about this as brides and grooms, but if you genuinely were just thinking about you and your husband, then you would have eloped, like you said. But you want to include the family, and children are a part of the family, whether you like it or not. Just put things in place to ensure that they don't tear down the cake or rip the guest book. I hope that helps. So this segment of the Bride's Room is going to be all about skincare. We're going to talk about beauty, because I strongly believe that brides and beauty are like 5 and 6. There is no other place, maybe unless you're a celebrity, where you're going to hear the type of figures you hear, where women are spending thousands on getting their hair and makeup done just for one day. Usually being that wedding day, and where it's normalized as well, because if someone does it on a day-to-day basis, that's actually very abnormal. But to do it for your wedding day, it's very much normalized. And I feel like we need to start talking a bit more about beauty, about skincare. So leading up to the big day, you've now finally booked your favorite MUA, your favorite hairstylist, you've got the dress sorted, and you want to look banging, you want to look 10 out of 10. Obviously, you're going to go do things like go to the gym. If you've got a little bit more money, you might, do a few enhancements here and there. I don't do that type of stuff, so I'm not going to speak on that area. But maybe one day, maybe we should get someone to come in the podcast. Actually, maybe we should. Note to self. But anyway, back to the skincare. So for me personally, I got to that stage. I had booked my dress, I'd booked my hair, I'd booked my makeup, really, really excited, couldn't wait. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to look 10 out of 10. But during the planning process, I was breaking out so much. And actually, and now looking back, I think at that point, I kind of had hormonal type of acne, and I needed to clear this because I wanted my skin to look 10 out of 10. Number one, and actually Joy Adenuga said this on her episode, but water is your best friend in this part of the journey. Water is your best friend. You need to cleanse out everything. 2, stress. Get rid of it. We're not stressing ourselves. And I know it's very ironic of me saying that while you are actively planning your wedding, but try to minimize the stress as much as you can, because I do feel like stress shows on the body externally, especially on the face. For me, it does. Like when I get stressed, I get spots. And I'll try and show a picture. Maybe, I don't know if I'm ready to be that vulnerable with you guys yet, but at one point I just had acne all over both sides of my cheeks. It was really, really bad. And water was my best friend. Getting rid of the stress was my best friend. Getting in a really good skin routine. And the products that I used at the time were Body Shop's the aloe vera range. I thought that they were amazing, and they worked really, really effectively for quite an affordable price, because we are always trying to keep the price low. So Body Shop's aloe vera range for me worked really, really well. I have very sensitive skin, and I just found that it didn't irritate my skin. I feel like it, it brightened my skin, but ultimately as well, it cleared the spots slowly but surely. So I used a foam face wash. I used a toner, and then I would use a day and night cream, and that would be my routine vigorously for literally a year leading up to the wedding. And it worked. My skin was really 10 out of 10. I had like one little mark, but we'll get over that. But for the most part, my skin, when the makeup, it was makeuping. And I do feel like the skin prep that you do leading up to the big day makes a massive difference. I don't care what anyone tells you. So that's the affordable side of things. Also products that I did used to use that I thought, actually, I need to throw out the bin as well. So before I got to the Body Shop, I will put my hands up and say that I used to be very much a St. Ives type of person. And that was probably what was irritating myself. Actually, to be fair, shout out to St. Ives, because it did actually clear some of my spots that I used to have. But it got to a stage where I needed to upgrade and put my big girl pants on and now start investing in my skincare. So a brand that was really, really good to me during that time as well was Fresh Rose Deep Hydration Face Cream. That was my best friend as well, because I also had very dehydrated skin, and I really wanted to make sure that I glowed and I was very radiant. And I'm going to try and find some videos of just me, before taking the professional photos, what my makeup actually looked like. I loved how my makeup looked on both days, but the first day that I did my wedding makeup was my traditional wedding. Lake Sanu, I don't even know if she even remembers me being her bride, but she will forever have my heart. Like, she really ate down with the look, and I just feel like the combination of the skin prep that I had done prior to obviously her skill set, it was a match made in heaven. Yeah, so the Deep Hydration Face Cream, for me, it was amazing. I just felt like it really got into my skin, and using that over time with a combination of healthy eating, going to the gym, drinking lots of water, you can't go wrong. And then, so that was the face cream in terms of the beauty and actually on the day. So the trick that we had to keep my makeup as intact as possible as we could, because at some point it gets to a point where you just can't fight back anymore. But for the most part, having a damp beauty blender in somebody's clutch or in your clutch, just readily available, helps with putting the makeup back in place, especially when you're in a hot, stuffy room. Of course, if you have your MUA, but I had my MUA, but when that time runs out and it's just you and your makeup, girl, you gotta fight back. You gotta fight back because it's your big day. So having that readily available in your clutch always works. And the beauty blender that I use, is by Real Technique. So your typical, I know this is something that I know is in a lot of people's makeup bags already. So just be ready to put that in your clutch bag on your big day. And trust me, you'll be able to keep your makeup looking fresh and A1, a 10 out of 10. Because sometimes it smudges as well. So you can just quickly dab things back into place and make everything make sense. So so that's the beauty segment of the bride's room. Something a bit different, but something I think that we need to talk about a bit more as well, because you're planning your big day. These are things that people won't talk to you about, especially if they haven't been on the journey. And to be honest as well, we always talk about the big things. We talk about the vendors, the annoying things, the relationships, but let's focus on you as a bride as well. The groom, my guy, you know what you need to do. Just eat healthy, eat clean, go to the gym, you'll be fine. But ladies, this segment is really for you. So just before we end this episode, I just want to say, guys, please, please, please do subscribe to my channel. Please do hit that like button below. Please comment, just interact in any way, share this video, whatever it is, just do something, please. Trying to grow, trying to get bigger and better. And Until next time, guys, have a lovely, 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 lovely week. I will speak to you soon. And class is dismissed. I got my sunglasses today. I mean, my reading glasses today. So class is dismissed. Bye.